The Pokemon Scarlet and Violet tier changes are finally here for October 2024, and there are some pretty big changes. The UU tier has lost its fourth most used mon in Zapdos, as it's now risen to the OU tier. But from OU, Pokemon like HEATRAN, Skarmory, Blissey, and Weavile have fallen. And the rarely used tier has claimed one of the best flying types in NU in Talonflame. So what are your thoughts on today's tier changes? Let me know down below as we talk about them today. So as you heard from the intro, we have some pretty big changes this month for Scarlet and Violet. We'll be talking about the usage stats in OU, as well as the overall changes, and of course all the other tiers and how they are affected. If you do enjoy this content, let me know. Feel free to leave a like, feel free to subscribe. This is kind of something you just want to put in the background and leave your opinions, leave your thoughts down below. I don't play every tier as much as I like to, so I miss a few things, and I would love to know other people's thoughts on stuff. So let's talk about the usage stats. Of course, Great Tusk still at number 1 and Gambit at number 2. We do see a rise of Zamazenta at 20%, but more importantly, Iron Moth at 8. This mon is straight up insane. I mean, I think we all know that, or how I felt about this mon. If it gets the special attack raise, it's broken. Right? You're usually forced to either expend Terra to deal with it or get some 50-50s with Gambit versus Sub, assuming it does get the special attack boost. If it doesn't, then Glow King can deal with it as well, which is another reason why Glow King is number 7. Just it's one of the best enablers with Chilly Reception and whatnot. We do see Kyurem at number 16, but of course Kyurem was recently banned. We also see Deoxys Speed actually being used at number 34, and of course Tinkaton at number 29. Now these are the stats for September specifically. Tinkaton did not end up moving up to the OU tier, but it's being used a lot. If this trend continues, it will rise up to OU, which would also be pretty crazy for the UU tier. So one of the biggest changes for UU is that Zapdos has risen up to the OU tier, and it's doing exactly what you think it's going to do. It's static paralyzing, Landorus on the U-turns, Great Tusk, and beating it 1v1, even beating Val via Hurricane and Discharge, Zamazenta. It's doing exactly what Zapdos does best, and I mean, Zapdos has always been a good Pokemon, especially if it lands, but even if it doesn't land, if you're touching it 30% of the time, you're going to get paralyzed. Now, I will say this is probably less for OU because it's a mon you kind of expect to rise, but for UU, it is an absolutely insane raise. It is insane. Zapdos is number 4 in UU, as you guys can see. It is one of the best checks to Excadrill, one of the best checks to Low Kicks, the absolute best check to Tornadus Therian, the best check to Scizor, a fantastic check to Cobalion. Basically, every single one of those Pokemon's viability rise, and they get better and better because Zapdos is gone. I will also argue that you don't really have to use Terra Electric on Torn if you are using Terra Electric. I've seen a lot of Terra Steel, obviously, with AV, and I've seen other Terras as well. You can use whatever you want on Torn. But I don't think Terra Electric is something you really have to use as much. Like, you really don't. I love that Latios has fallen onto number 9. I find it interesting. And look at the 2 Dark types at number 2 and 3, and then Excadrill at number 1. So I find it really, really interesting that Latios itself is moving down, and then obviously Zapdos going away makes Torn even better at what it can do. I'd seen Terra Electric. I've also seen Terra Steel to resist Scizor. I think you can go more back to Terra Steel because you're also resisting Iron Head from Excadrill and the potential Rock Slide if it is running on Sand, and also Ivy Cudgel from Ogerpon 2. So they do go back and forth in those though. But overall, one of the craziest changes for UU, everything offensive that's physical gets better, period. Literally everything gets better. And the best of the best get better as well. Low Kicks doesn't have to worry about being paralyzed. Gren doesn't have to worry about Terra Steel or Terra Water Zapdos living and discharging it. So there's just so much that gets better because Zapdos itself got smoked from the UU tier. Now, other rises from the RUBL to the UU tier we see is Hoopa, which I think is really, really interesting as well, considering Hoopa is number 10 right here. Hoopa's ability to tank hits from Zapdos, tank hits from Greninja, tank non-U-turn as well. Obviously, U-turn's bad, right? Zapdos has U-turns, Hoopa smoked, etc. The special hits, but being able to actually tank hits from Gren and smoke it back with Drain Punch, Hyperspace Fury, and things like that. It's also a good knocker as well. Obviously, Tinkaton's really good in the tier, but getting rid of Tinkaton's item goes a long way and actually deal with it. It's just a great enabler as well. Like, I like Low Kicks plus Hoopa when I was playing, Double Dark combo. And you know, you turn on whatever comes in, and then Hoopa just smokes the physical walls as well. Thunderous's Rise also makes a lot of sense. Nasty Plot is super good. I know Boots Knock is very good as well. Being able to deal with Zapdos naturally, resisting Hurricane and being immune to Discharge. Obviously, tanking hits from Torn too, and just as Volt Switcher enabler as well. Like, it's always been good. It's faster than Drill, can Focus Blast. Not really much to say in those cases because they didn't really take from a tier. They were both RUBL, so you're not like stealing from RU. I will say Okidogi moving up to the UU tier is really, really cool. I've seen a lot of it in tournament play, and it's usually just bulking up and kind of winning a lot of games. I think that's amazing, especially because it was RU. Now, it wasn't top 10 in the RU tier, but it was used quite a bit in the RU tier, and it did have a good chunk of viability. If I'm not mistaken, Okidogi was actually A+ rank in RU, even though it's not anywhere in the top 10 usage. But I don't think that usage doesn't really... It doesn't mean Amon's good or bad. It just means who's using it on the ladder specifically. It doesn't have anything to do with tournament play. It doesn't have anything to do with... Like, it's not a proper way to show that Amon is good. That's just what I'm basically trying to say with that. But yeah, Okidogi being gone from RU is crazy. Great Bishop answer. Great Amon to, like, it was so good into Fat, because what it does is, even if you go into something like a Powdon that'll tank its hits, right? You go for knockoff, you get the Toxic Chain, it's poisoned. You've dealt with a wall type of thing. In UU specifically, I have seen this Mon be bulk up with Terra Ghost a lot in tournament, and it's basically gone for like Psychic Fangs and 1v1 itself, and just shed its weaknesses when it does that. Of course, it's really, really strong in this tier, man. It's actually really bulky. There's a reason why Uzi uses this Mon so much in draft. But base 88 HP, base 86 special defense, but the base 115 defense really matters. You're able to take on low kicks as well prior. You chew an Earthquake from Excadrill and get it all back with Drain Punch. If you're Spit F bulk up, you can take on defensive Zapdos, which you don't even have to worry about anymore, because Zapdos is banned from the tier because it's OU, right? Can't use it in UU. So a Mon that literally gets better with Zapdos going down, and obviously a pretty big loss for the RU tier as well. One of the bigger ways of dealing with Fat, like RU obviously still has like Mixed Thunderous, and it does have Knock on Croak to help, and Rachi can still do its thing, but Okidogi was really good at breaking and also just opening up a way for other team members from when I played RU. That's what I'm remembering, and from watching in tournaments as well. So one of the nastiest changes for the NU tier is that RU has stolen Talonflame. And Talonflame, as you can see, is top 10 in usage. This is how you punish Flygon going for U-turn. This is how you punish Knockoff. This is how you 1v1 Bronzong via Will-O-Wisp. This is how you punished Mienshao. So losing the literal best defogger and flame body punishment in the tier is huge. All physical attackers get better in NU. I think Flygon gets a lot better too. Choiced Flygon gets a lot better, in my opinion. You don't have to really fear going for U-turns and getting punished. Of course, Scale Shots didn't really have to worry too much about Talonflame besides the Will-O-Wisp variants from there. Mienshao gets a ton better too. Very free knockoffs from Scarf. Scarf is very good on Mienshao, so very free knockoffs, very free CCs as well. Obviously, you know, Cresselia and stuff are still in the tier, but they get insanely better with all the what's it called? The rises, well, not all the rises, with Talonflame going up. I don't care as much about the Umbreon Quagsire one. I will say it's always nice to see an NU stall variation go down. Rabia is going to get a lot of wins now that Umbreon is gone. For those that don't know, the tier leader Rabia, and my very close friend, is... You know, this is like his weakest spot. He doesn't do too well. He doesn't do too well into this Pokemon. It just Wish protects and beats his balances, and Umbreon obviously still having Toxic allowed it to be very annoying. Thunder Wave 2 in the Foul Play variant. So, Rabia, congratulations. I hope you hear this and that you do a lot better now. I know you're very happy about this. Quag going on. I mean, it's not the worst. Again, Underwear Mon, Triple Spiker, and things like that. I think it's completely fine that Mon goes away. I will say with both Inteleon, with Inteleon rising up to the NU tier and Spidef Umbreon going away, though it can go between Spidef and Fizdef, Inteleon's insane, right? The choice specs and also Snipe Shot, just Terra Water pumps. Like Hydro Pumps are insanely strong, so it makes sense why it moved up to the NU tier. Even water types have to worry about choice specs, Terra, Water, Hydro Pump. If your name is not Vaporeon or Milotic, you are getting two-shot in this tier. And sorry we're kind of going through this a little bit fast, but it is like we had more time to actually think about these, and it's not like there's so many mons that are rising, changing. I will say again, Talonflame specifically ridiculously warps the NU tier, because the tier was definitely, at least balance was made around Talonflame, being able to defog and being able to check all these physical threats. Umbreon, of course, for more, you can still do balance, semi-stall, and stall variants. Obviously being gone is worse too. Ghost types get better, specifically with Umbreon being gone, like Chandelure. That mon gets a lot better because Umbreon can just tank the Shadow Balls. And obviously there's still Incineroar in the tier, but I've seen Chandelure run Terra Blast Water to smoke that as well. And you know, the other Wish Protect walls in the tier would be Vaporeon, which doesn't resist Shadow Ball, and Screamtail, which is weak to Shadow Ball. So Umbreon going down in that regard is huge. Now, the PU to NU tier rises are insane for PU, because PU loses most of its defensive staples that like actually let you take on a lot of the physical threats in that tier. For one, you have Bronzong moving up, which makes Indeedee a lot better. I believe they already banned, or they recently unbanned it? Yes, so NU to PU, you have this Indeedee that falls right next to it. So Bronzong going down would make Indeedee insanely strong. The fact that Assault Vest Glowbro, which was probably one of the most used mons in the PU tier, one of the most common sets. I've also seen Calm Mind, but that's a lot in NU as well. And it just makes it a lot more deadlier. You have Venusaur getting a lot better in the tier because Glowbro is gone. One of the nasty breakers, it's crazy that Staraptor was PU, man, but one of the nasty breakers in Staraptor is absolutely gone too. So, I mean, that's okay, because, you know, losing Bronzong and if Staraptor stayed, it made it a lot worse. But you lose so many of your defensive staples: Screamtail, Milo, Gligar, one of the best rocker and spiker in the damn tier. But if you actually look at the usage stats, it's really interesting, because you don't see any of those mons in top 10 besides Tauros Pouty Aqua, which was literally the #1 mon in this tier, which is crazy. Which is actually crazy to think about, that the #1 mon in this tier has risen up. And I mean, Bulk Up Tauros, Scarf Tauros, and Band Tauros are all super good in the U tier, because you're a water type that doesn't care about bulky water, since you can just close combat them with your other stab. And you also have Aqua Jet priority, which is why Pouty Aqua is better than Fire Tauros. And the Intimidate is obviously really good too. But the #1 mon is gone, which obviously had to do with a lot of these sets. Look at Ambipom #4. You get a lot better, fam. You do get a lot better. Gastro with Terra Ghost and Terra Water, I know were pretty common too. Ghost spin blocks and also is immune to CC, whereas Fairy, did I say Water? Terra Fairy allows you to resist CC, which is pretty cool. So #1 mon being gone is great too, because the Decidueye doesn't have to play defensive if it's offense, right? It doesn't have to play a defensive pivot into it. It makes it even better. Not that it didn't naturally wall it, but Choice Band Tauros can 2-hit KO offensive Decidueye. So that's something to really worry about there. In terms of why they're being used, Calm Mind Glowbro is insane with Rocky Helmet. Punishes a lot. I mean, again, we've had these tiers for a little while now, right? This isn't like every month we're getting tier shifts and everything's changing. No, we've had these for a couple months now. So we've seen a lot of Terrafly Scarf Raptor, we've seen a lot of Gligar, we've seen Bronzong being used the whole time, we've seen Trailblaze Guts Heracross, PU was just able to use them as well. We've seen Encore Screamtail on more stall variants. Milotic, if you're trying to deal with Inteleon as well, was very common. Kilowattrel, I'm a little bit surprised. I don't use that mon too much in the tier, mainly because I don't like having to hit Hurricanes, but with Incineroar being there and having competitive, which is nice, you get a special attack raise, and you do check Talonflame as well to an extent. Max speed Talonflame does outspeed you. It does have to run max speed because of Kilowattrel, which is really interesting. But being able to volt switch around, I think, is really nice for that mod. But yeah, the Other mon that I'm just looking at anything else here. Calm Mind or Iron Defense Bronzong is pretty common as a good stealth rocker, allowing you to also tank hits from Monkey Dory, which has to run Shadow Ball or Terrified Focus Blast to actually do anything. Zong gets knocked a lot, but has Psychic Noise as well to stop recovery from bulky water, so it's not as passive as you would think. I will say Umbreon being gone also makes Pokemon like Bronzong a lot better. I like that. Especially just running this stealth rock support, not iron defense body press or anything like that. I think you should be running that on most of your Bronzongs, in my opinion. Hera appreciates, Terra Ghost Talonflame being gone too. Because it didn't care about burn, but now it doesn't have to run like a Terra that actually, like, you can go back to Terra normal. I've ran Terra Rock sometimes. I've ran Terra Fire as well as Talonflame, because you don't care about being burnt because your guts, I mean, you're usually burning yourself at your Flame Orb, but being able to deal with that is cool. But yeah, crazy for the PU tier. I think that a lot of the mons, like, if you're looking at PU itself, Fire Tauros looks a lot better because Bulky Water Milotic is gone, and #1 Tauros, Paldea Aqua, is gone as well. We also have like mons like Flamigo that get better. Staraptor's gone, which kind of overshadows it, right? Because of its speed tier. And yeah, Flamigo has scrappy CC, so no ghost type can stop it. Like the Decidueye, you can't, bring it in on a close combat, which would be crazy because, you still get threatened by Brave Bird. But the faster mon that did take its place is gone. So Flamigo can rise back up in terms of this. We do see Toxic Oak rising up too. I mean, that makes sense because Tauros was running around, so it gets you a nice little check to Tauros, as well as something that can threaten Incineroar and other bulky waters as well, like Vaporeon, Milotic. So pretty big raises. I would say specifically like for the PU tier, less for NU because we've played with these mons in NU for the long time, but pretty big for the PU tier. So from UU drops to OU, or from OU drops to UU, we have Blissey falling down to the UU tier. I will say this is like, I don't think this is going to last very long. All stall teams you run into on the ladder run that Dondozo Blissey, and they're all Calm Mind Blissey with Terra Dark to deal with stored power, to deal with Psyshock from Golden Go, etc., etc. And Calm Mind Blissey allows it to also 1v1 Raging Bolt unless it is Calm Mind Terra Ghost. And even then, you can at least PP stall for the most part for a long time. Bliss falls down to UU. I'm sure there's some UU variations of stall that you can do down there because of it. But I'm going to be honest, if you look at the usage stats for the UU tier, Blissey, it might be harder for Blissey to do its thing down here considering the abundance of knockoff and hazards and just strong physical mons. And Latios still, it does run Luster Purge over Psyshock. I think it might be a little bit harder, but I do think Blissey is a mon that will eventually rise back up to the OU tier just because stall is prevalent, especially with Kyurem and Gouging Fire both being banned from the tier. Specifically Kyurem, because Kyurem actually, his best matchup is stall. Like the Icicle Spear, Freeze Dry, Dragon set with Earth Power, just even anything non-spec. Stall doesn't care about specs. Stall is probably the most prepared versus specs because Blissey just comes in every single time. You just get up rocks and you don't care. And your stall doesn't care because most stalls run heavy duty boot spam. So you don't really care about most that it can do. But Blissey fell down to the UU tier. I mean, again, some variations of balance and stall you'll probably be able to do. I think it's not going to be that great in UU. And I do think it eventually moves back up to the OU tier for the same reason that it was used. It's going to be able to Calm Mind, beat Golden Go. People are still going to use it. Nobody's going to change their team just because it dropped. Now, Claude falling down is really interesting because if we look at the usage stats, everything beats up Claude. I think this is a mon that was eventually going to go. Everything beats up Claude, man. I can't. The only mon that beats Claude, that Claude cannot beat, or that can't beat Claude in this, potentially is Iron Moth, and I've seen Psychic as well on Iron Moth and if it's booster energy special attack, Claude has to watch out. And that's about it. Like Gold runs Air Balloon, so that you need one item to beat it, which is real funny. Val can run Calm Mind, Psyshock, or SD, even if it's unaware. Like you're knocking and you're just getting had. Like it's a Spikes metagame. We still have Ogerpon with Spikes, though it doesn't run it as much. But we do have Samurott. That's more draft. I think that Ogerpon gets away with Spikes than here. But Yeah, I don't like Claude at all in the OU tier, especially with like Iron Crown being good and the fact that it has the toxic. Gold, every single Golden Go runs Balloon, right? It's just a good item. It makes you, if Gliscor isn't running knockoff, which they should be right now, but if Gliscor is not running knockoff, they can't touch you at all. You just come in and they allow you to just take that. So like, I don't like Claude. Guard is gonna probably come back on trend too. I could see Claude rising back up as a Darkrai check just because the fact that Kyurem is gone. But there's just so much that just does not care about that Pokemon. And there's so much anti-Claude as well. Like you have like Psychic Noise Prima to stop its recovers. And if it's running Water Absorb, it's not unaware, which means it does its job worse into Vow, into Calm Mind, Raging Bolt, Booster Energy, etc., etc. So I don't like Claude. Claude falling down to UU though is cool with Zapdos being great in the tier, but Zapdos obviously moved up. But as a Greninja answer with Water Absorb, I like it. There, maybe Terra Dark for both Hoopa and Latios could also be pretty cool as well. You probably have to get away with Water Absorb, though. You probably can't be unaware because then Latios would just click Draco without fearing the drops. So that's something that they can definitely do. And just a good spiker and all around decent Mon defensively. I don't think it's going to be the best, though. So Heatran is back in the UU tier, and in a tier with Latios, and a tier with Tornadus Theory, and a tier with Greninja. Kind of feels like it belongs. Flame Body, one of my favorite sets, being able to punish low kicks as well. I love when this Mon was UU. It was one of my favorite Mons to use. Just trapping with it, Terra Grass to wall opposing Heatran. And just Magma Storm, obviously the water types that stay in, like Greninja clicking Pump if it is Specs. Or Battlemon even in dealing with that from there. I also liked it during the Garg meta because Heatran plus Garg was kind of broken. That was also Garchomp meta though. That kind of felt like it. Like it's crazy to think Heatran falls down to UU one more time, but lack of Toxic is huge in my opinion on this Mon. I would also argue lack of Eruption is pretty big too because this Mon can kind of just smoke with Eruption, especially on the Sun teams, and the fact that it no longer has that move hurts it a lot. You actually see Heatran all the time in national decks, especially with Terrifier and Scarf. But yeah, in the OU tier, no. Gouging Fire being a thing and both Kyurem being a thing for a while before they got banned makes this Mon a lot harder to deal with as well. Landorus rising back up and running speed. Gold can obviously deal with it too. Kingambit can run Terrifier, which it sometimes does for Moltres anyway. Tusk being faster. Like, yeah, you can Terra, but if I'm going to use a special wall, I am like even Iron Moth can Terra ground if it really wants to, but I'd rather use Glow King than Heatran. Glow King at least has Regenerator recovery, and then I mean there's just so much regen in the thing. Like what is Heatran gonna do to freaking Aloe coming in? Aloe comes in, you Magma Storm it, you better be Terra Blast Grass, but then you just beat major Steel type of Grass type, right? Which is not very good in a tier where Iron Moth runs Sludge Wave and the like. So Flame Body's still cool. The fact that Flame Body also doesn't punish Ivy Cudgel is really sad. Yeah, trend ends up going down. There's an influx of everything that beats it. Literally everything beats it in this tier, right? So trend ends up going down. I still think it's okay. I don't think it's that great. I think if I'm going to use a support Steel type, I like Tinkaton a little bit better right now in the OU tier, just because it can deal with Darkrai unless it's Nasty Plot, Focus Splash, Terra Fight. And plus it also has the pickpocket ability, so it can steal items from the physical Pokemon that make contact with it. So I like that a little bit more. And you're playing in a metagame with like Hex, Pulse, Thunder Wave, and normally Heatran's good and it can punish those, but it doesn't have Toxic. It hasn't had Toxic for a little bit, but that didn't really stop it. You would think Terra, being able to change your type, but Heatran's type is one of its best things. And obviously worse for Earthquake, but it just the value of terrestrializing Heatran doesn't give you as much as terrestrializing another defensive Pokemon, let's say like Gliscor, letting you wall all waters and just eat type of thing, or Glow King, letting you wall Walking Wake type stuff. So just the value of it wasn't like there for Heatran, and yeah, it falls down. I think it's going to be fantastic in the U tier though. It's Heatran fighting Tornadus. It's going to get knocked off. Be careful about letting your guy get knocked off, but Magma Storms are going to be really good here. Too. I'm sure some sort of Scarf or Specs variants can be solid as well, but with Scizor being at number 6, it can punish the U-turns, so I think it'll be fine in the U tier. I don't think it's going to be anything overbearing. Maybe I'm wrong though, and maybe it ends up taking over to a point. I feel like we have UU is not the same as when Heatran was first down there. UU was more of a you had the occasional rain with broken torn, obviously on the rain teams, but UU is definitely not the same that it was before. You have Ogre, you have Lottie type thing. Lottie was around, but like Drill, Gren. I don't think UU is the same at all. I don't think it is at all. So I think Heatran is not the broken mon. You had Garg down there too. Garchomp. I don't think Heatran is the broken mon that it was before. I think it's going to be a fine mon, and think I could be very wrong about this, but we'll see. We'll absolutely see. Skarmory falling down to the UU tier. Wow. Wow, man. Skarmory falling down. Between the fact that I've seen some Supercell Slam Great Tusk and some Tempered Flare ones, which are fucking hilarious. We have the Terra Ghost Gambit, Zamazenta running Roar, so you can't really Iron Defense, Body Press, because the only set that Skarm runs, it's one thing, right? It's Body Press, Iron Defense, Spikes, and Roost. That's all it runs. So you wall by all Ghosts, but you get up Spikes. You run Rocky Helmet, so that's how you do your chip to Gambit. If Gambit tears, you have to pray your Rocky Helmet didn't get knocked off by Great Tusk, which is like on almost all sets, unless you're the bulk up sets with Speed Booster. You can still run knock off on those, but I think Ice Spinner, Headlong Rush is way better. Just, you know, Ice Ground is a good combo. Shout out to Mammoth One. Overwhelmed by Val. Gouging Fire was very popular before it got banned, obviously, which can beat you 1v1. Two. And there is a plethora of ghosts in this tier too, besides Terra. Yeah, it's kind of just like met its match, I guess, as a spiker. Currently, it's still, I've seen it, like even on stall, I don't actually see it as much. I see Gliscor more, like Gliscor, Dozo, you have your Clef, your Bliss. So I see that a little bit more, and also being set up fodder for gold. I do think Skarm always has a purpose when like mons like Rillaboom start to move up, and with Gouge being gone and Roaring Moon potential. But even the Roaring Moon started running the Dragon Dance Terra Ghost, Taunt as well. I do think that all variants don't have to run Terra Ghost now, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, if Skarmory starts to pull up, you obviously can do that again, but you don't have to run Terra Ghost. I like Terra Ground, Dragon Dance, Roaring Moon a lot, because Strong Earthquakes are really, really nice in this meta. And obviously Acro, Terra Fly gets a lot better too, because one of the better mons to deal with it. Corviknight being number 18, just a great pivot. That's another thing too. Like if I know I can't defog on gold, but at least I can defog, right? I can't get up spikes, but at least I can defog. And more importantly, I got U-turn momentum from my team as well. Corvi being number 18 is actually higher than I would think Corvi would be. But with Landorus being number 4, it makes sense that you want something that can reliably defog on it. Though Landorus does typically run Taunt and can also punish Corviknight on the U-turn with Rocky Helmet. But yeah, Skarm going down to that tier in a metagame with low kicks and Excadrill, really, really good to have a Skarmory, something to keep them from going out of hand. Obviously, with Zapdos going up, it's pretty big too, but Torn just runs Knock plus Heat Wave anyway. Ivy Cudgelmon still will hit really hard and can run Taunt as well. Cobalion can Iron Punch, Body Press, and also Volt Switch, and Lottie just does not give a damn about Skarm as well. So it's like the Skarm is going to be good. It's not going to be broken at all, and low kicks is still going to be really good. I don't think, oh man, low kicks in the tier, Skarm's not going to be good. Nah, bro, that's not going to do nothing, dude. That's not going to do anything for it. Like, yeah, it resists 4 times the U-turn. So the U-turn is only doing, what, 2 times damage because of Tinted Lens instead of, you know, neutral or whatever to it. But it's still just going to let you U-turn out into Gren, into Torn, into Lottie, etc., etc. Like, you got to think that just because one mon comes out, you got a whole team. Just because one mon's dropped does not mean the rest of it, like the mon's bad. Low-kick's still going to be good versus offense. Low-kick's still going to be annoying versus everything with Terra Bug, man. And first impressions are scary. Weavile is probably my favorite drop. Now, I think that Weavile can still have a place in the OU tier, but it's a little bit difficult considering Zama and like the triple axle banded ice is still insane, especially if you knock off the Rocky Helmet. Ice is still, you'll 2 a KO King Gambit with Spike Up, right, with banded triple axle. That's how strong that mon really is in this tier. But you know, if I wanted to use a strong ice type, I'm using Karam. Like literally, I'm using Karam. I still think Weavile's pretty good in OU though. It matches up pretty decently into the top 10. Obviously, you have to worry about the booster moth, but none of them want to switch in specifically on Weavile. I think that in UU though, fastest mon is amazing, right? Look at everything in top 10. Look at everything in top 10. Ignore Zapdos. I don't think SD will be as broken as it could be because low kicks is in the tier, so always be able to first impression. If you have to run SD plus protect, like what are you running? Knockoff plus triple axle? That's not bad, I guess. You'd probably have to run a Terra to resist bullet punch, so maybe fire or steel on it. So that's not terrible. Maybe you can run SD Protect. I think Band will be insane. Just clicking. Doesn't have to worry about static Zapdos punishing it either. We're going to see a lot of Terra Steel Torns because of that too. I'm excited. The lack of Pursuit obviously always hurt Weavile. It would be OU if it had Pursuit. But I'm really excited to see because it has such a great speed tier versus literally everything. Bandit can run low kick as well because all you need is knockoff, triple axle, ice shard, low kick. That's basically all you need on Weavile anyway. You could go Icicle Crash if you don't want to make contact, but the power difference between Icicle Crash and Triple Axle is insane. Like, that's the difference between actually 2-hit KO and defensive walls. Tinkaton is in UU, so it can take it on relatively well, but Tinkaton, when it loses item, doesn't also appreciate and has no recovery. Doesn't also appreciate, you know, getting hit like that, so that's big. So when we look at UU to RUBL, how Lucha's fallen, I don't think RU has unbanned it. If it does, I'm excited to see how it goes, but UU to RU is pretty big. Let's go through everything. So Torkoal falls down to the UU tier. Sun is already, to RU tier. Sun is already in RU, like it because of Ninetales, but I don't think it's that great. You have a Hippowdon and Cyclizar on literally most teams, right? 20% of teams have a Hippowdon. 16% of teams have Crocodile. That's not most, but that's a good chunk considering how many people play the game, right? So like Sun is going to have trouble keeping its Sun up. And you've already had Mons like Slitherwing able to be in this tier and the like. And the fact that defensive teams get better with Okidogi being gone is huge. Like Okidogi being gone is huge. So I don't know. I think it's a little bit harder. Slitherwing's already still a decent Mon in the tier and takes advantage of Sun, but the Chlorophyll users, we might see some Sun Hyper offense. But I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be like too overwhelming. I could be wrong. Some people will argue that Ninetales is a better Sunsetter than Torkoal because Torkoal can get up rocks and Rapid Spin, but Ninetales can Healing Wish and has a good speed tier as well. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know. I think Sun gets maybe slightly better because it can set up rocks, but I don't think it can do much else from that. Like the Cyclizar and Hippowdon run this damn tier. And it's just good. You have Prankster Thunderwave from Thundurus, and like if you're Venusaur, unless you're Terra Ground, Goodra smokes you too. So there's like a lot. Terra Ground could be interesting, but then Hippo comes back out after, and then you go Cyclizar and Wall type of stuff. So I don't like that as much for the tier. I do say, sorry, my chair's like banging into my desk. I will say that Webs is pretty nice with Rabambi, a pretty big addition to the tier. I don't think Webs were that great in RU before, especially with the fact that, you know, you have a Defogger and a Rapid Spinner and Cyclizar plus Galarian Weezing, but Rabambi's actually faster and can threaten with Moonblast and Psychic or Psychic Noise respectively. So it's actually something that can threaten and just stun Spore and put in a lot of work. And considering like Zapdos and there's other strong mons in this tier, Taunt Crooks. I mean, Cyclizar always runs Boots, so you're always gonna get outsped anyway, so you have to run away with your Ghost, like a Basculegion or whatever Ghost you want to say. But I could definitely see Webs getting a bit better. Rabambi is the best Web setter that we have. We don't have no Shuckle, so and Basculegion female is in the tier as well. So that's like there's not Ghost, there's Gengar too, Mimikyu as well for hyper offense. So I don't think, and even Hisuian Zark. So like I don't think the tier gets worse with this. I think Webs get slightly better. I think they actually get a good chunk better. I'm kind of excited to see it because, again, it can kind of threaten a lot of the top RU tier. Even Rachi does not want to get stun spored, right? So that's big. So I like Webs a lot. In terms of Alolan Ninetales, I think, well, for the one part, screens haven't really been around in RU. Light Clay is banned, right? So Light Clay is banned from the tier, so you can't just get up Aurora Veil and have your many turns. But they get better. They get better in general because Aurora Veil at least is one turn, so you can at least use those 3 turns you'll have instead of way less to actually set up with your homies. But I also kind of like the addition of just Ninetales as an offensive threat in general because it actually threatens Cyclizar and Hippo, at least offensively to an extent. I don't know if Snow is the biggest thing though. Maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe it's kind of too weak to deal with. It doesn't knock out Cyclizar anyway. Like I could see you running an offensive nasty plot set, but I don't think that's going to be good is the problem. Like some nasty plot Terra set. I feel like if I'm going to run that, I'd rather run it on Thundurus if I'm going to do something crazy. Like Gujar's going to wall it regardless. Rachi, even if you're Terra Fire, you ain't going to KO. Hippo just comes in after you. I don't think it's going to be that crazy. Maybe maybe you can push Snow with like some triple axle Sand Slash stuff. It looks pretty decent versus the top 10 of RU. It does, except for Slowbro. But triple axle, like, you know, Alolan Sand Slash can be cool. I do think that going back to Rabambi, I like the Quiver Dancing side. I kind of like glossed over that, but I like the idea of Quiver Dance. I think it looks really strong actually outside of Rachi, so that's exciting. It might even be a little bit influential, like too influential for the tier, like where people are, I don't know. It just like the people might want to ban, but I could be absolutely wrong too. But I'm excited. I'm excited about the addition of Ninetales because maybe Cetitan gets better. A lot of HO gets a lot better as well with Okidogi being gone, which can naturally tank hits. I don't know if Veil's going to be that great though. RU to NUBL is Necrozma. I like Necrozma though. The Meteor Beam set looks pretty cool. It is NUBL, so you can just use it back. It probably gets a little bit better with webs though from Rabambi, so it might be something we actually end up seeing as well. From RU to NU, Overquill, thank you, Overquill, for coming back. I don't care why you left. Probably had to do with Okidogi and a few others, but I don't care why you ended up leaving the tier. I am happy that you are finally NU. I'm sure Rabia is very happy too because we have a dark type that's good at setting up spikes. That is not Hisuian Quillfish, man. I love it. It is a check to Monkey Dory. That's beautiful. It is a check to Alolan Muck, a check to Incineroar. Has Pain Split now, so you don't have to worry about having no passive recovery. And a check to Mienshao, can run Poison Point too if it really wants to. A check to Bronzong. I am loving Overquill in the NU tier. I'm very, very, very excited about what that Mon can do in this tier. Check to Glowbro. It still is really annoying as well, and I'm excited. I think this is a great spiker for the tier. I think it's great for balance. I think it's also strong on Rain if you want to run Swords Dance on with a Rain Dance with somebody else for it. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's probably my favorite tier shift, my favorite drop for the NU tier. I love Overquill. Yeah. That Mon has a championship with me. Like I love that Mon in draft. And I'm excited to use it in NU. I'm sure Rabia was excited about this too. NU to PU, talked about Indeedee. Now, I talked about it, I glossed over it earlier, but like Indeedee being in the PU tier with Bronzong, Screamtail, Assault Vest, Glowbro gone, that Mon might be a little bit too powerful. Who knows? It might end up getting banned. They lost a lot of their defensive checks. This Mon can just Terra and Expanding Force. It is way too strong. It might be way too strong. I think it might end up getting banned. We'll see what ends up happening though. But from PU to ZU, look at all these homies that have Delphox, bro. What happened to you? What actually happened to you? Let's look at the ZU tier. All right, let's just match it up next to it. Typhlosion is number 8. Charizard is number 4. Like, move over. I got a Delphox the God that actually crushes everything in top 10 of this tier. You got the Grass Knot, Focus Blast, Fire move, Psychic move. I love it. I like Hariyama in this tier too. Belly Drum sets seem pretty cool. I'm also liking the just defensive utilities of it as well. Drain Punch is really nice. Lycanroc gives you another great rocker. Brute Bonnet seems interesting. Maybe some sort of Sun with Charizard, Typhlosion could work, assuming Heatrock isn't banned in this tier. I could be wrong. I always like, whenever I see Mons fall down like Skullvillain and stuff like that too, I always think, oh man, Sun could be crazy. But I mean, maybe legit, right? Brute Bonnet, you got the Typhlosion, you got Skullvillain down there. Sun's already good, in my opinion, in every tier, as long as you get the Terrafire. Flash Fire Typhlosion actually helps a lot in that case. Frostlass gives you a new lead for HO. You have Quillfish at number 5, which is a great spiker, and Earthworm Roll at number 10, which is a great spiker too. But Frostlass giving you HO, a new Breath of Life, which I like. Lycanroc also doing very similar, Focus Sash lead, Endeavor, etc., and can get up the rocks, Taunt, and that's kind of like, yeah, I like the new offensive tools we got. Belly Drum, Hariyama. I think Delphox is really nasty. I'm excited to use Nasty Plot. Specs looks good too. Scarf obviously looks really good too. Passimian's typically running Scarf, so being faster than one of the more common Scarfers is really nice. Also being able to threaten it with an Oko. So what are you guys' thoughts on the tier shifts this time? Let me know down below. A little bit shorter of a video, but let me know down below. I will see you with another video tomorrow. I don't think I'm gonna be streaming today at all. So my first day off in like 31 days or 32 days maybe. But yeah, thank you everybody for all the support. I will see you in the next one. Let me know all down below. Peace.